With it looking like a WWE star is gearing up for a return and more, this is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official and follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. Previously, Larry Zbyszko claimed he was behind the NWO in WCW, as he said during a Q&A. Well, to be honest with you, I'm the one that programmed the whole angle. They had a meeting in the back one day and I found out what was going on with Scott Hall coming in, and they had some ideas. Then Eric looked around and said, "Anybody got anything to say?" And I raised my hand and he went, "Oh God, what?" And I laid out a different idea. I programmed the whole beginning, how Scott Hall came in, and then Nash and X-Pac. Eric goes, "Oh God, your ideas are so good," and I thought about mine for months. You listen to me, and I'm the one that programmed the whole beginning of the NWO, and even in promos right before it happened, they came out and I went, "Oh my God, there's going to be a new world order in wrestling." Eric heard that and it stuck in his head and said, "That's a perfect name for this." So, inadvertently I named the NWO and I programmed the whole beginning of that scenario that got to be the hottest, biggest thing in wrestling, so I really was responsible for some good in the wrestling business. Kevin Nash responded to this on his Click This podcast, saying, "The only problem with Larry's story is that I was signed to a deal. Pac wasn't. He wasn't coming. So I gotta say that's the first I've heard of it. I call BS. It's crazy because the only person I ever had a conversation with was Eric and Kevin Sullivan. Eric Bischoff says it best. You ask 5 people that were in a room in '93 a story and you will get 5 completely different answers." Bringing up the problems he had with his Dark Side of the Ring episode, Marty Jannetty said on True Heel Heat, for the most part, everything was pretty positive. There was a couple of people who were like, "Who's that Ozzy Osbourne looking girl sitting there obviously lying?" She, Karen Walker, didn't mean to. She has got some brain damage. Outside of that, but it was hilarious to me too. She was saying Sean pushed Marty out of the hotel window and he went through the window and he climbed back in and we were on the 4th floor. Ain't nobody falling out of the damn 4th floor. Crawled back in and jumps on Sean. She was saying it like she was there. She was never there. She lives in St. Louis. It was in Denver, and of course everybody knows that. Then she had talked about a pill bottle spread on the floor, that I was supposedly passed out over the pill bottle and Snuka and Sean came and picked me up. The boys were like, "Nah, that ain't true. Snuka didn't like Sean. He wouldn't be hanging out with him." Then she had the nerve to say 99% of what comes out of Marty's mouth is not true. Well, she still got me beat. 100% of what she said is not true. She's delusional. She was telling these stories like she was really there. She wasn't, but in her mind, she was. So can't get mad at her. She was born that way. Recalling the lawsuit brought to him by WCW over his return promo in WWE, X-Pac told Chris Van Vliet, "It was real, it was authentic. I was able to deliver a couple of memorable zingers. It wasn't the smoothest of promos and it worked. Vince McMahon sees me standing there getting ready. He goes, 'Hey, I expected something great from you. Give it to them.' There was no script, none of that. He had no idea what I was gonna say. I was in there. It probably would have been a good idea if they asked me what I was gonna say, right? Because a part of it was why they sued. Some of it was like one of the things from my promo that was part of my lawsuit. I got deposed for that. The deposition was classic. The part where I said Kevin Nash and Scott Hall would be here with me if they weren't being held hostage by WCW. So I'm sitting in the deposition, the lawyer for WCW, and I had my lawyer, that Jesse Ventura's lawyer, who's there with me. The lawyer goes, "Why did you say Kevin Nash and Scott Hall would be right there with you if they weren't being held hostage by WCW?" I said, "Well, I was talking to Kev the night before and he told me it would be a good idea if I said that." The lawyer asks, "What do you mean, suck it?" They asked me that. What does that have to do with anything? Like, what do you think it means? Touching on the possibility of Edge making the move to AEW, Chris Jericho told the Superstar Crossover podcast, well, I mean, who's to say for sure? But if you look at Chris Jericho, for example, where I was in WWE, there really wasn't much more that I could do there. You're there for many years and you've wrestled everybody and it's great, but it's always good to shock people and to show up with a new kind of mission. So I think somebody like Edge, there's a lot of guys over in WWE like this. They've kind of done everything they can do there. For him to come to AEW with a whole fresh new coat of paint, a whole new roster of matches that he can have, obviously a new name, which would then, knowing him, knowing me, what I would do is a whole new look, a whole new mindset. That's the best thing about having AEW and about us being as successful as we are, is that there's now a viable alternative. I don't want to say competitor because it's not that, but you can now go to either company. During a virtual signing for KNS WrestleFest, Jake Hager said this about his career as a mixed martial artist. Officially, I'm retired from MMA. I trained hard last year, but Bellator was jerking me off and I retired, and I am now just focusing on wrestling now. For details on a former AEW champion joining WWE, Ringside News wrote that it was unclear whether Jade Cargill would spend some time in NXT first or whether she will make her debut directly on Raw or SmackDown. While we don't know her destination yet, the main roster's creative team has been asked to weigh in on the situation at this point. Ringside News was told by a tenured member of the creative team that priority is not the right way to describe how Jade Cargill is being considered right now. That being said, the main roster creative team has been approached about the possibility of Jade Cargill coming in. We were told that the WWE creative team was asked if she's coming aboard, what are our long-term plans for her? Of course, this is likely the first of many mentions of Jade Cargill on the main roster creative team. As reports continue to come out regarding Jade Cargill signing with WWE, she would take to X to post this, writing, "Ain't no seeing green, but I'm seeing green." As former AEW coach BJ Whitmer was arrested back in June due to domestic violence, burglary, and strangulation, more details have come out as a statement from the victim, Whitmer's ex-girlfriend, was provided to Fox 19. It reads, "I came into my house and he was standing at the top of my steps waiting for me, to him attacking me and strangling me through 2 different rooms of my home and holding me down. And he squeezed tighter and said, 'I'm going to kill you. Do you hear me? I'm going to kill you.' And once we get to the point of where we stopped moving and he continued choking me, I absolutely knew. Instead of coughing, I lied and said I already called the cops. And the second I said that, he let go." PW Insider added that the Boone County, Kentucky Sheriff Department's report for the arrest of Benjamin B.J. Whitmer on June 4th alleges that Whitmer entered the residence of his former girlfriend without consent through an open door at 6:14 p.m. that evening, requesting that she delete messages from her phone that were from Mr. Whitmer. When she refused, Mr. Whitmer became irate and approached her, grabbed her by the throat, and threw her down on the couch where he began strangling her. She advised that Mr. Whitmer impeded her ability to breathe to the point where she thought she was going to lose consciousness. The report states that the victim had bruising on her neck and visible red marks when Kentucky deputies arrived at her home. Prior to the incident, the victim stated that she had been receiving texts from Whitmer all day, including one that he would see her soon. She witnessed him enter her home while returning from her neighborhood pool. Whitmer left the scene by the time deputies arrived. The victim advised them that Whitmer had likely gone to a relative's house. Whitmer was found there and detained by Alexandria, Kentucky police until he could be questioned. Whitmer declined to comment to the police at that time. The victim was treated and evaluated by Walton Fire EMS and stated her throat was very sore, but declined to be hospitalized or taken to an emergency room. Court records indicate that Whitmer has been charged charged with strangulation first degree, a Class C felony in Kentucky, carries a potential penalty of 5 to 10 years in prison. Whitmer has also been charged with burglary second degree in Kentucky. That charge is described as knowingly entering or remaining in a dwelling with the intent to commit a crime. It is also classified as a Class C felony in Kentucky, potentially punishable by 5 to 10 years in prison. Whitmer was released on $25,000 bond the afternoon of Monday, June 12th. Giving an update on Randy Orton, who has been out of action from WWE, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful said, "Orton has been working out in the gym, and we're told he got huge in a good way at one point, but as of early August, he had not resumed in-ring training. Despite several incorrect rumors at the time that Orton was nearing a return, WWE sources and even an official capacity repeatedly reiterated that Orton was not cleared for a return at that point. Orton would also be seen by fans at the WWE Performance Center. Here's the video.
Ready! I don't see you! We don't see you! We don't see you!
And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later.